My life as a teen was pretty cool. I never had to worry about money, had loads of friends, and did pretty well at school too. Some people said I had it all except a dad, of course. My dad passed away when I was 12, leaving me and my mom alone, though comfortable. But before I continue, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Thanks a lot. Every morning was similar. I woke up at 6 a.m. sharp and went on a run. I'd run a block or two, then swing by the bakery around the corner from our building to get my mom's breakfast. When I approached my building, I saw a woman at the entrance. She was ringing my doorbell and mumbling under her breath. I tapped her on the shoulder and said I was the owner of the apartment. And to my surprise, she suddenly hugged me. She then took my face in both her hands and said, "My son." I heard a record scratch. Son? I didn't have a mom. I'd been alone since my dad died. She started telling me about how she left my dad ages ago and only recently found out that he died and her son was alone. I felt bad for her. She made me uncomfortable, but then she started crying. I didn't feel like I had a choice but to let her come in and stay in the guest room. I did lock the doors when I left though, so if she was just a thief, she couldn't get out. All I knew about her was that her name was Tiffany and she was apparently my mom. After that, Mom just sort of started living with me. It was really weird. I decided to just accept it though, even if it was really strange and sudden. I continued to go to school, and one day I was at the cafeteria with my friends, watching my crush from far away. She was sitting at her usual table with her artsy friends. She never noticed me, but her friends always saw me staring and had such judgy eyes all the time. My best friend Tanya caught me staring and asked, "Griffin, why can't you just talk to her?" All I had to do was to look at Tanya and she knew the answer. Because my crush was out of my league. "Well, what if you threw a party?" she asked before explaining. "It would be the perfect opportunity to talk to her," she said. It sounded like a great idea. Only problem was my mom, I guessed. Did I have to ask for permission? When I got home, I thought I had entered the wrong apartment. Everything looked different. Mom had replaced all the furniture, all the paintings, absolutely everything. I figured that the best way to ask permission would be after a nice dinner, so I started cooking after I recovered from the shock. When she was starting to eat her dessert, I gathered the courage and decided to ask, "Mom, do you think I could throw a party here for my 18th birthday?" I don't even know why I said 18th. I guess I wanted to remind her how special that day was supposed to be. My mom paused eating her dessert, wiped her mouth with a napkin, and calmly stated, "Absolutely not. There will be no parties under my roof," before taking her plate and going to the guest room. After doing the dishes, I went to my room. I was so disappointed. I called Tanya and started venting. "Dude, just throw it anyway," was her big solution. "You only just met her. How bad can she be?" I grinned at this and told Tanya I didn't know what I would ever do without her. I spent the next few days watching every party-related teenage comedy and planning with Tanya. I needed it to be perfect. On my birthday, my friends and I decorated the apartment. I was kind of embarrassed of people seeing my mom's furniture. It was so tacky and the color was hideous. But when we turned on color-changing lights, you couldn't tell the color was that bad. Plus, who would complain about the furniture at a party in a penthouse? The party was a hit. It was full of people, everyone having fun and dancing. I was watching my crush the entire night. Her friends were kind of jerks, so when they found whoever they were dating, they started leaving her alone one by one. I saw she was standing alone in my kitchen, and she looked so pretty. I started pushing through the crowd and walking towards her when the door to the apartment burst open. I turned and saw my mom flaming. She scanned the crowd, and when her eyes landed on me, she yelled, "Griffin!" The party cleared out faster than it had filled up. It sucked watching everyone leave, but it was so embarrassing to see my crush grab her coat and run out. My mom stalked towards me in her pointy high heels and started yelling at me. I didn't hear most of it. I was mourning the loss of my awesome party, but I caught the end of it. "You ungrateful little brat! This is what I get after coming back!" My mom yelled at me. Something in me snapped. "Maybe you shouldn't have left in the first place," I yelled back. "I cook and I clean, and I had to pick myself up all alone when I lost my dad. But you are the victim?" My mom and I started having a screaming match. I let out every word I had wanted to say to her whenever I got frustrated with her, but she didn't appreciate it one bit. "Get out of my house," she screamed. "Your house? I'll leave only because I hate you," I screamed back before grabbing my jacket from the hanger and slamming the door shut behind me as I left. I didn't want to see her. It was as I wandered the cold streets of the city that I noticed I had nowhere to go. All my friends were probably on their way home or clubbing, and I honestly didn't know how to get to their houses in the dark. I walked for a long time until I found a 24-hour diner. Great timing, because I felt like my stomach was starting to consume itself. To my luck, there was a woman working there, maybe in her 20s. I was legal now, so there was really no harm in flirting myself into a free meal. I made up this elaborate lie about my sickly mother, and the woman gave me a free burger and fries, with a milkshake on the side. I gave her a fake number when she closed up the diner, but then I realized I still had nowhere to go. I had to find a place to sleep. I heard some buzzing coming from behind the diner and went to check it out. There was a vent near the ground at the back of the building. Warm air was coming out of it, and boy, how I needed warmth. The vent was next to a dumpster, which was pretty gross, but I really did need somewhere to sleep, so I laid down in front of the vent and dozed off. I woke up pretty late. The sound of traffic broke my sleep. You'd think the sun rising would have done it, but I didn't see any sunlight because I had been covered by garbage bags. I pushed them off me, super irritated. I caught a whiff of myself. I stunk like a skunk. Now that it was daytime, I recognized the way to Tanya's house and started walking in that direction. When I knocked on the door, I was exhausted. Tanya opened the door pretty quickly. "You look like hell. What happened?" she asked me as I took off my shoes. "You also smell like hell," she added, covering her nose. I was about to throw myself on the couch because my entire body hurt from sleeping on garbage, but she grabbed the back of my shirt and pushed me towards the shower, where she left me after giving me a huge t-shirt and sweatpants. After I showered, Tanya let me sleep on the couch without asking too many questions. I woke up hours later, very refreshed, to Tanya asking me a million questions. Guess they had been building up inside her. I explained to her how my mom kicked me out and I wandered the streets, but I was rudely interrupted by my stomach growling. I made Tanya and I sandwiches in her kitchen, then kept explaining. "So I guess I have to find somewhere to live and a job," I said. "She just entered your life and took everything you own?" Tanya asked. "I guess so," I said. "If I knew she was like this, I wouldn't have wished for her to show up all these years," I continued. Tanya told me I could stay at hers for at least a week, that her mom would probably not mind. That evening, Tanya's mom came home and I made them dinner as a thank you. Tanya's mom was a big shot lawyer, intimidating and great at her job. We sat down and ate, but near the end of the meal, after catching up, Tanya's mom turned to me and said, "I've been meaning to get in touch with you. You're 18 now, right?" I nodded, kinda scared that she was coming on to me. "Great, so we can finally execute your dad's will," she continued, grabbing another one of the cinnamon rolls I had made. "I thought it already was," I asked, but then Tanya's mom snorted and said, "You think what you have now is all of it? No way." I was pretty confused at that point, but then I asked Tanya's mom about the portion of my dad's will that my mom got. She laughed again and said, "Honey, Tiffany is your stepmom. Your dad left all the money and property to you." I was awestruck. Not only was that horrible woman not my biological mom, but I was entitled to more money? So this lunatic showed up at my door and made me question everything for nothing? I asked, more excitedly than appropriate. "I warned your dad not to marry her, but he did, and now here we are," Tanya's mom said. "She envies you because she knows she got nothing." After dinner, we went to Tanya's mom's study and I signed all the paperwork I needed to. "Sign right here and all your dad's accounts are transferred to you, Griffin," said Tanya's mom. She looked happy to see that I was finally getting what was rightfully mine. After I signed, Tanya patted me on the back and asked, "So, champ, what are you going to do now?" I knew exactly what I needed to do, and I was going to enjoy it so much. I knew exactly what my mom, or I guess I should call her stepmom, would be doing the next morning. She hadn't stopped talking about the malls since she walked into my life. While she was gone, I used the spare key I had given Tanya and entered our, or I guess my, apartment. The movers who came in right after me were super efficient. I honestly told them to just take anything tacky, and that wasn't in my room, the kitchen, or in my bathroom. The rest, they threw in a few boxes or carried downstairs as it was. I stood around watching my apartment be cleansed of evil. Soon, there was no trace of my stepmom. After the movers left, I enjoyed the view from the window. All of my stepmom's belongings were on the sidewalk in front of our apartment. I peeked out the window every so often because I didn't want to miss the exact moment when it clicked in her little mind. I saw a taxi pull up beside the mountain of stuff and hot pink heels step out. My stepmom started looking at all the stuff, probably thinking it all looked fabulous and very much her taste, before realizing that it was exactly to her taste because it was her stuff. I couldn't hear her scream, but I waved from my penthouse when she looked up at me. I waited at the door for the elevator to ding. She stepped out fuming and shoved me into the apartment. "How dare you, you obnoxious," she started before I cut her off, waving the documents Tanya's mom had given me in her face. "I know the truth, Tiffany. You're not entitled to any of this because Dad knew you didn't deserve it," I said. She started tearing up, so I felt kind of bad. But then I remembered that I had pretty much been alone since Dad passed away, and only now she showed up because she wanted my money. "I cooked for you, I cleaned for you, I welcomed you in my home while you were off spending my money. I want you out of my house right now," I yelled at the woman in front of me. She already had a thick layer of makeup running down her cheeks. She ran out and slammed the door behind her. Not even a week later, I threw another party, much bigger than my last. Music was booming, Tanya was off somewhere playing Truth or Dare with some nerds, and everyone was having the time of their lives. The apartment was pretty much empty, so my stress levels were at zero, at least while I was thinking about my crush. I couldn't see her anywhere. Did she get spooked after the last party? Maybe she thought everyone was gonna get kicked out again. I wanted to kick myself. Did I really ruin my chances that bad? But then I saw her. She was out on the balcony by herself, enjoying the view, I'm guessing. Maybe it was how tired I felt after the last few days. Maybe it was the sight of her all alone. But I wasn't at all scared to go up to her. I slid the glass door open and leaned on the edge of the balcony, next to her. "Hey," I said. Internally, I celebrated that my voice didn't crack or something. "Hi," she said, turning to me and smiling. I almost turned into a puddle. She congratulated me on getting rid of the tacky furniture. "Was it really that bad?" I asked, pretty embarrassed of it. But she just said, "Yeah," and chuckled, so I felt at ease. "You're gonna need someone to help you decorate," she said. I asked her if she knew anyone who could help, and I had to stop myself from jumping up and dancing when she said she could help me. "I love interior design. We could work on it together," she smiled. We spent the rest of the night talking about our interests and what the apartment could look like and stuff. I guess Tanya was right when she said a party is the perfect opportunity to talk to your crush.
"Wow, what lovely flowers. Thank you so much," I said while I jumped into my boyfriend Teddy's arms. He was the love of my life, and there was nothing anyone could do to tear us apart. "You're welcome, Kaylee. Anything for you, my love muffin," he replied while he squeezed me tightly. I had never been this in love before. Well, I was only 17 years old, but I didn't believe that I could possibly love anyone else that much. I knew everything about him. His favorite color, food, place, thing, what he wore to sleep, what he ate for breakfast. I could go on and on. Despite the fact that he came from a poor family, he always found a way to surprise me with beautiful gifts. But before I continue, please don't forget to like my video and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on any great stories. My parents hated Teddy. They had a lot of money and believed that I should be with someone in my social class. But why should loving a person depend on how much money they had? I believe that someone's personality mattered more. And Teddy had a perfect one, or at least it was perfect for me. But the first time I brought him home for dinner, they frowned the whole time and kept making disrespectful remarks. I was so embarrassed. Even though we were quite wealthy, I was never spoiled, and I was always taught to work hard for whatever I wanted. I worked 2 jobs, and I was paying to finish my bachelor's degree online. I chose to do it online because I didn't want to move far away from Teddy. Anyway, my 18th birthday was coming up, and I was super excited. I just planned to go out to dinner with Teddy. Nothing fancy, but on the day, my parents totally surprised me. When I woke up, the house was beautifully decorated with balloons and banners that said, "Happy birthday, Kaylee." I found this a bit odd because my parents were never that extravagant. When I got to the dining room to have breakfast, my parents were sitting there. "Happy birthday, darling. We have a wonderful surprise for you," my mom said. "You're really going to love it," my dad added as he passed me a big blue envelope. Okay, I said while opening it. There was a bunch of documents, and I really wasn't in the mood to read. "What's all this about?" I asked. "They're legal documents. We've bought you an island," my dad said with so much excitement I thought he was going to pop. "An island? You guys refused to buy me a cell phone last year, and I'm supposed to believe this?" Is this some kind of joke? I laughed. No, it isn't. We've also transferred $500,000 to your bank account. We've admired that you are so hardworking, even though you don't really need to be. We believe that we've taught you all you need to know about responsibility, so now we are ready to share our little, or not so little, fortune with you. Now that you're legally an adult, think of it as our investment in your future, my mom said. I looked through the documents carefully this time and realized they weren't lying. Oh my gosh, I thought. This little island is located somewhere in the Pacific. We've already bought tickets for you and Teddy, so you can go there for a while to enjoy yourselves. There's a little beachfront house where you can stay. As soon as you arrive, you'll be shown where to go. My mom smiled. You bought tickets for me and Teddy? I thought you hated Teddy. I didn't even know you guys had so much money. This is so confusing, I said. Don't think too much. Go pack your bags and ask Teddy to pack his too. You leave tomorrow evening, they replied. I ran to my room to call Teddy to give him the news. An island? Are you serious? What are you going to do with an island? He asked. Well, I'm not sure. Maybe I could build a hotel or something. Maybe I could sell it and use the money for something else. I don't know. Anyway, my parents have bought us plane tickets. We leave tomorrow night, I said. Wow, this is so exciting, he said. We used the day to prepare for our trip. We bought a few things we thought we would need and packed a small suitcase because we both hated carrying too much stuff around. The next day, I could hardly contain my excitement. I felt like I was dreaming. Not only did my parents give me the best gift I could have ever asked for, but I was going on my first trip with my dear boyfriend. We would get to share a room and a bed and spend almost all our time together for days. I had never felt so happy. The plane rides and layovers took forever. Then we reached a large island and had to take a ferry to the small island, which was mine. When we arrived, it was midday. A well-dressed man was waiting where the ferry docked. He took our bags and asked us to follow him. Your parents employed me and 2 other helpers to take care of you during your vacation here. I'm Benjamin, he said. We walked for about 5 minutes, then arrived at a huge beachfront house. I thought my parents said this place was little. Wow, I exclaimed. It's a wonderful house, and it's all yours. You've got a pool, a bar, a jacuzzi, and pretty much everything else you can imagine. I wish I could stay here all the time. Ha 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 ha. Benjamin laughed. My parents' gift kept getting better and better. It was surreal. Our first few days on the island were more than perfect. Teddy and I woke up in each other's arms every day. Then we'd enjoy the breakfast that was prepared for us. After that, we'd head to the beach, swim, snorkel, and then have a picnic on the sand. When we got back to the beach house, a 3-course lunch was already prepared for us, and we just laze around for the rest of the day. It was all I needed. Then one day, we got tired of our routine. Why don't we go exploring a bit? I don't know what most of this island looks like anyway, I said to Teddy. Sure, we'll go hiking, he said. We got ready and began exploring. Being surrounded by so much green was refreshing. The plants and trees were so fresh and different from what I was used to in the city back home. We walked further towards the interior of the island and away from the sea. The temperature changed and the air became more humid. I sat down for a while to catch my breath. Here, have a snack, love, Teddy said while handing me a granola bar. Thanks, I replied. As I lifted my head to take the bar, I saw a figure run behind him. I think there's someone here, I gasped. I got up and walked in the direction where I had seen the figure. Oh my gosh, Teddy, look! There's a whole village here, I whispered while staring in awe. We were on top of a little hill looking down. Below, there were about 15 small huts and several men, women, and children. They were dressed differently from us and looked quite happy. Let's go back before anyone sees us. We don't really know what they're like, Teddy said. I agreed, and we quickly walked back to the beach house. After a most exquisite dinner that night, Teddy and I sat on the balcony looking at the stars. How can I own an island if people already live there? My parents forgot to mention that part. I don't think it's right, I said. We eventually went to bed because we were tired from such an exhausting day. Just as I was falling into a deep sleep, I heard a crashing noise. Teddy, wake up! What was that? I jumped. What? He groaned. I had no time to explain because at the moment our bedroom door was flung open and 3 huge men barged in. They looked very much like the natives we had seen earlier. I was frozen. They quickly approached us, tied our arms and legs, and then lifted us into their arms. "Help! Stop!" We both screamed, but no one heard. Not even the servants who should have been downstairs sleeping. I couldn't understand how all the noise hadn't woken them up. They carried us out of the house and walked through the bushes until they reached the little village we had seen earlier that day. We were taken into one of the little huts and thrown on the floor. "Why have you brought us here? What have we done wrong?" I cried. "Please, let us go," said Teddy while shaking. They replied, but we couldn't understand what they were saying. I continued asking them to let us go, and eventually we were gagged so we wouldn't make any noise. All I could do was cry. I was so scared. We were left there for 3 days. Occasionally, the gags were taken off, and we were force-fed water and fruits. Then, on the 3rd night, I heard someone speaking English in the distance. The voice came closer, and I realized it was Benjamin. He was talking on the phone. He looked inside, and we pretended to be asleep. "What do you mean, just the boy? We have both of them." "Yes, we arranged to kill him. Yes, Mr. Adams, we will ensure that your daughter isn't hurt and that she is rid of that boy forever. Yes, yes, yes," he said, then went silent. My stomach turned. Was this all a setup so my parents could get rid of Teddy? How could they do this? Teddy looked like he was about to cry. We had to find a way to escape, and I knew we were both thinking it, but we had no idea how. When there were no more noises outside, I started thinking. The only thing in the room was a lamp, and the fire was growing dim. It became clear what I had to do. I had to find a way to get to it and burn the middle part of the ropes which tied my hands together. It took a lot of struggling, and Teddy kept looking at me like I was totally insane, but I got my hands loose without burning my skin too much. I ungagged and untied myself and Teddy. "Let's go," I whispered. We got up and ran. When we got back to the house, it was in complete darkness. "Quick, grab your cell phone and let's go live. Let our followers know everything and get them to contact the police at home. If we have a hard time getting through this, at least they'll know where to search for us," Teddy shouted. I grabbed my phone and did as he said, then we packed our bags and went outside to hide until the sun came out. After we went to the place where the ferry had docked when we first arrived on the island, there was nothing there. "How exactly are we going to get to the island with the airport?" I asked. "Look over there," he said while pointing to a small fishing boat. There appeared to be a little engine attached. "I'll use my phone to get the correct coordinates. Come on, let's go. I've never done this before, but we have no choice," he said. I fell more and more in love with him. "Teddy, you're so amazing. When we get back home, I want to marry you," I said. He smiled at me as we sped away in the boat. We made it to the island safely and went straight to the airport. We were able to purchase tickets right away and would only have to wait until the afternoon to leave. It was a long wait, but I felt grateful that Teddy and I were together and that we were alive. When we got back home, there were thousands of people standing there and so many reporters trying to interview us. Apparently, our live stream went viral, and everyone was concerned about our safety. I grabbed Teddy's hand, and he let go quickly. I wondered why. Suddenly, a beautiful girl jumped out of nowhere, straight into his arms. "Teddy, I missed you so much. I was so worried." He held on to her tightly and said, "I'll never leave your side again." Then they kissed. I nearly fainted. I stormed out of the airport and took a cab home. Later, I found out that he had been engaged to that girl way before he had even met me. He was only using me for money. He never really loved me. And the worst part of it all was that he never even bothered to reach out to me or to apologize. I instantly regretted my decision, which led to my parents' arrest. They had seen right through him and just wanted me to be with a better person. I should have left him on the island, which was never mine, by the way. I felt betrayed by everyone.
I spent my life following my parents through ancient tombs and exploring the pyramids of Egypt. They're archaeologists, and I felt very lucky to have been adopted by these cool people. My adoptive mom couldn't have children, and one day she decided that adopting a baby was just as good as having her own. She went to an orphanage, and I was the first baby she laid eyes on. Apparently, I was really cute, so she picked me. Before I go on, make sure to like and subscribe to this channel if you want to be cute and irresistible too. I promise, it really works. I went to an international school as my parents wanted me to be educated in English, not Arabic. I had cool classmates from all over the world. My favorite subject was art. I just loved expressing myself through colors. I planned to go to art school eventually. I couldn't wait to get rid of boring math and horrible English essays. While I was a relatively happy teenager, I always felt like something was missing in my life. There was an emptiness I just couldn't explain. I didn't care too much about meeting my real parents, so it wasn't that. I just didn't know what it was. Anyway, one afternoon in history class, I kicked my legs up onto my desk and put on my headphones to listen to my favorite rapper. The teacher didn't care. This was everybody's chill-out class and nobody paid attention anyway. I was just getting to my favorite part of the song when my friend Kayla tapped me on the shoulder. "Carmen, you're wanted for defacing public property. But when did you go to New York? You never told us about that," she said. "Girl, are you drunk? What are you talking about?" I replied. "Here, watch this news clip," she said as she handed me her iPad. It went, "Graffiti artist Lauren strikes again." Depicted here is a drawing of a massive spider on the exterior walls of this luxury apartment building. Then they showed a picture of a girl who looked exactly like me. "Kayla, this isn't me," I said. "Sure, of course you wouldn't tell me about your secret double life," she laughed. That night I went home and I searched for Lauren online. I found several pictures, and all were from news websites stating that they had no idea where she was. They posted pictures of the building she had defaced. And well, I thought the art was brilliant. Then I stumbled across an Instagram page, which seemed to have been created by fans who were trying to figure out where she might be at a particular time. Every time someone identified her artwork on a building, they'd take a picture and send it to the page. I continued browsing through her art and found it all so fascinating. I have to find a way to meet her, I thought. The next morning, I caught my parents when they were in a good mood. "Mom? Dad, there's a school art exhibition happening in New York next week, and I've been invited to participate," I squealed while faking excitement. "Really? You've never traveled alone, and we're in the middle of a major project. I'm not sure if you can go," my dad said. "Well, it would teach her some responsibility," my mother answered. I begged and pleaded for what seemed like hours. I even printed a fake invitation and showed them the art pieces I planned to display. I tried to make them feel guilty, saying that this could be my chance of becoming a well-known artist, or at least the beginning of my career. They eventually got tired of my whining and agreed to let me go. Of course, I felt bad for lying, but that feeling didn't last very long. I was going to New York. They agreed to pay for my ticket and to book my hotel room. I was so excited I could barely breathe. The big day finally arrived. My bags were packed and I was ready to fly away to meet my mysterious look-alike. The flight was comfortable and I sat next to a cute guy who shared his snacks with me. When we arrived, I was in awe. The scenery was so different from what I was used to in Egypt. The buildings towered above me and I felt so small. I gazed at everything and daydreamed for a while. Then I signaled to a cab and gave the driver directions to my hotel. This was all so simple and I felt so grown up. My room was awesome. I got settled, took a little nap, and then decided to get started on my mission. I went to the Instagram page and noticed that the latest pictures were all taken around one particular block, which wasn't too far away. I decided it might be a good idea to just stand around there for a while and hope to bump into her. I took a screenshot of the address and went to catch another cab. When I arrived, and walked around for a few minutes until I found one of Lauren's pieces. It was some abstract depiction of different shapes, and I couldn't really understand it, but it was interesting. I took out my phone to take a picture, and suddenly someone shouted, "It's Lauren! Everybody, it's her! It's the wanted graffiti artist!" Oh crap, I thought. I realized right then and there that I had made a huge mistake. Of course, I'd be mistaken for Lauren. I should have worn some type of disguise. I felt so stupid. Luckily, the person who shouted just wanted to take a picture, so I allowed him to. Then I realized I needed to run away very quickly, except I had no idea where I was going. In less than a minute, I heard sirens everywhere. I was cornered and I had nowhere to run. I was arrested and taken to a juvenile detention center. I tried to explain that I wasn't who they thought I was. I even showed them my ID cards and my passport. I tried to tell them to call my parents, but they wouldn't listen to me. I had never been in trouble in my life, and I was terrified. I had only heard about juvenile detention centers on television. Nothing I had watched in the past could have prepared me for this. At the center, all my belongings were taken from me. I was given some new clothes, a toothbrush, shampoo, and a blanket. They told me I was allowed one phone call, but I didn't know my parents' number by heart. I wanted to cry. I felt like I had just ruined my life. I was taken to my room, which was shared by two horrible-looking girls who snarled at me. I put down my things, and as I was about to sit down, one of them said, "You know you have to do everything we tell you, right? This is how it works around here. You're not so tough without your spray cans and your paint now, are you?" "How do you even know who I am?" I asked. "You're all over the news. We saw you while we were watching television earlier." "We're allowed to watch for 1 hour a day," she replied. "Anyway, give me that shampoo," the other girl said while grabbing all my stuff. It was no use trying to assert myself. They were both bigger and much stronger than I was. I spent several days in there. The food was disgusting, and the wardens treated us like animals. The worst part was that I was starting to smell really awful. We were only allowed 1 2-minute shower per day. I couldn't even wash my hair because that horrible girl had taken my shampoo. On the bright side, they allowed us to go outside for 2 hours every day, and this was the only thing that would keep me going. I had a special spot under a tree next to a fence. I'd often sit there and daydream about what my life would have been like if I hadn't made such a bad decision to come here. I'd probably be in class with my feet kicked up on a desk without a care in the world. One day, as I sat, filled with depressing thoughts, I heard, "Psst." I looked around and saw nothing. "Over here. Keep following my voice," the voice said. I followed the voice along the fence, and suddenly a character popped up from the bushes. It was Lauren. "Oh my gosh, it's you. It's like looking into a mirror. I can't believe it. How did you know I was in here?" I nearly screamed. "Shh, not so loud. You're all over the news. Well, I'm all over the news. This is super complicated. You look just like me." "I can't believe it," she replied. "I only came here to find you, and now my life is ruined in this place. I hate it here," I said. "Don't worry. I'll get you out. You'll be free," she said confidently. She explained the escape plan to me. At midnight, I would pretend to have an asthma attack. I would ask to be taken outside for some fresh air. When outside, I'd run to this exact spot where she would have carved a hole into the fence. She'd be waiting right there for me, and we'd run to her hiding spot. "Are you sure this is going to work?" I asked nervously. "Trust me." She winked and ran off. That night, I carried out the plan exactly how she had explained it to me, and it worked. As we ran away from the center together, I felt the greatest sense of accomplishment I had ever felt in my life. She had been hiding in a little apartment which wasn't too far away. When we got there, I sighed with relief. We were safe, and I was no longer locked up. After I showered and changed into ordinary clothes, we spent quite a while looking at each other in disbelief. We spoke about our childhoods, which had a similar starting point. She had also been abandoned as a child, but unlike me, she was sent to live in a miserable group home where she was treated awfully. Some days she didn't even have enough food to eat. She was never given a birthday present in her life, and a Christmas celebration was something she had never experienced. Hearing her stories made me appreciate my life a lot more. She grew up feeling unwanted and neglected for most of her life, while I was loved and showered with affection. The only thing that made her happy was art. "Do you think we're twins?" I asked. "Well, look at us," she replied. I found my parents' number online and called them to let them know the truth and all I had discovered. After getting over the initial shock, they asked me to come home that instant and to bring her with me if I wanted. I asked her if she wanted to come with me, and she agreed. After all, she needed an escape or they'd eventually catch her and send her to that awful detention center. We figured out how to leave the country without anyone noticing. We carefully disguised ourselves and fled to Canada. Some days we walked, and other days we hitchhiked. When we finally got across the border, Lauren had to change her name and get a passport. That took a few days, but after we did it all, we were on our way to Egypt. When we arrived at the airport, my parents dropped everything they were holding. "Which one is you, Carmen?" said my mom. "Whoa, they're identical," shouted my dad. We went home and they had set up a room just for Lauren. Later on, they decided we should take DNA tests to confirm whether or not we were really twins. As you guessed, we were. I finally felt like I had found the missing piece of the puzzle, the part of me I knew existed somehow. Lauren and I became best friends, and we were so alike it was crazy. We spent a lot of time sharing our artistic creations. My parents enrolled her at the same school as me, and all of my classmates became obsessed with our stories. We decided to start a YouTube channel to discuss our lives as newly reconnected twins. I was so happy I had met my sister and that we were reunited.